Go Pizza presents SCP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wilde.
I want to shout out Tom. I want to shout out Tom before we get into this show for realsies because we got some ground to cover today.
Who's Tom?
Tom is a guy that's working on a garage. And when I say working on a garage, he's actually building somebody's detached garage. In the Mount Pleasant and Bloor area. And I was meeting a buddy for a run this morning, and I had my music up or whatever, and I see this guy waving his arms at me, and he's got to be 6'4", 200 pounds, and I'm like, who is this guy? So I pop my headphone out. I'm like, what's up?
Hello, Mr. Sundin. And
he's like, I recognize you. Hey, I recognize you. I was like, hey.
So Tom is Italian.
So yeah, well, maybe. And when I get that, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what from. So I kind of wait for people to tell me because a lot of times it's breakfast television. And he's like, "You were interviewing you're Dangle's buddy. You were
Dangle's buddy.
You were interviewing Matt Sundin, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually." And he's like, "Will you tell Dangle I love him and that I say hi?"
Wow, he didn't say he loved you though.
No,
this is all for me.
That's okay. He's here for you.
And Jesse's not even mentioned.
Well,
no intro.
I'm Dangle's buddy. Jesse would be Dangle's other buddy. I'm assuming.
Mention from Tom. Nothing.
Let's pick this apart and make it negative because today's show will not be negative enough.
Whew, yeah. So that fun show that we do is going to be very fun today.
It's still, I got some fun stuff. I got fun elements.
Well, okay. It's messed up.
So apologies to Scott Wheeler, who was supposed to be on the show today. He was going to talk to us about the draft stuff. That small thing called the draft coming up. Yeah. And he's been following all that stuff closely for a long time. And we also had some Marlies questions for him. And we were hoping the Marlies would win last night. So we would say like, all right, so, who's graduating, who's not, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, they like a great story. So it's going to Game 7 in the AHL championship. And I think I was going to come on the show today and I was going to ask this one question.
Sure.
Who made the better choice last night in terms of entertainment? Was it Jesse going to Kendrick Lamar or us going to a Calder Cup final game that should have been the final game?
It was absolutely Jesse.
Jesse wins.
It was Jesse won 100%. Was the concert good?
It was a good show.
It was a good
Kendrick,
show.
Of course it was.
Very good plur. The very, very drunk people who got on the GO train with me in Oshawa, I assume had a very good time if they didn't fall asleep before they got to the concert. Did you see them, maybe?
These two people that you're talking about that I have no idea what they look like or who they are.
No, it was like 7 of them.
Oh, okay.
One of them I'm pretty sure had like a black tooth.
Yeah, no, I saw them. I know exactly who you're talking about. Fred and Mel.
Fred and Mel.
Yeah, good buddies of mine.
They had a good time.
From Mel.
The backseat freestyle. Oh, they lost it. Fred and Mel.
I'm going to go ahead and say that there could have been more than 7 people on a varying variety, of substances last night.
You couldn't win one game.
Thank you for the Stephen Smith. Sorry. So yeah, Jesse, congratulations on making the right choice because the Marlies almost had 50 shots and could only put 2 past McKenna, the goalie, who is a journeyman. Come on,
one of the most frustrating games I've ever seen. One of the most dominant. Just robbery of a game goaltending performances I've ever seen live in person from Mike McKenna.
Heart of Lab from SB Nation came and hung out, and he's like, when it was 16-4 in terms of shots after the first period.
After the first period.
I was a little worried, and bingo. And Garrett Sparks just did not have a Garrett Sparks game.
It had one of those games written all over it, but like I never really felt like they were out of it, even when it was 3-0.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, they dominated the game. There's no question. It was a total domination of Texas. Texas still won. We got Randy Carlyle.
Rosen scores like a minute and a half into the third, and I'm like, we're good. I'm so excited for the Disney movie that is about to happen right in front of my eyes, and I think Texas scored a minute and a half later.
Yep.
And then they pulled the goalie with like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, absolutely. So frustrating, and it sucked. But let's talk about something that didn't.
Okay.
The Capitals Cup Parade.
There it is. I'm like going through the Rolodex of what we're going to talk about, and I'm like,
no, we're going to start on something good.
Yeah.
Was that not just the best? Or the speech is not the best.
It was a whole city and a whole fan base going, and just like letting out all the frustration. Had so much relief. Like, anyone who thought the Capitals overdid it, and there were some, like, this wasn't a run-of-the-mill cup parade. This was a finally cup parade. Like, you know how Chicago lost it in 2010? And then in 2013 and 2015, it was old hat? Yeah, this was them getting it out. The Penguins, they win. Hooray! After 2009, which was so long ago, we didn't think we'd win again. And then the back-to-back cup, it's the thing that we do because we're the Penguins. Like, this is Washington experiencing something they've never experienced before. A Stanley Cup parade. Kuznetsov was awesome. Like, such a heartfelt speech with, like, limited English. And then, all right, let's fuck this shit. And then Ovi just fully committing to it. Like, that wasn't a drunk slip of the tongue. We're not gonna be fucking sucked this year! Yeah! Yeah! Like, in case, he screamed twice in case you thought, like, he didn't mean to do it. Like, it was just a slip. He forgot. He didn't know what to say.
It's so funny. There have been people in the past that have suggested that Alexander Ovechkin, and I've seen this, didn't care to win the cup. It really didn't matter.
Yeah.
That the gold medal was more important.
Yeah.
Because it mattered more in Russia. I don't think so, based on what I saw.
Yeah.
The last week has been a pretty good indication that it's a pretty passionate guy.
I like Wyshynski's thing, like, just sew it to my hands. Like, just sew it to my hands. Is cup now. My hands is cup now.
Yeah.
He never wants to let go.
So what do you think about all the people that are upset that they dropped an F-bomb in that speech?
Shut up. Just shut up. Like, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, well, there were kids at that parade. And then I was like, I knew every swear word there was. I knew, like, what is it? There's, like, the big five or whatever. Like, the S word and the F word and all those ones. I knew all those by grade 1. When did you know those words?
I was trying to think of the big five.
Big 4 or 5. Well, okay, now you got to remember, in, like, the first grade, like, a word like bastard.
Or damn.
Is forgiven, or forbidden. Damn.
Damn got me lines.
Ass.
Oh, ass is bad for sure.
Ass is a really bad one. And that, like, ass you could say, ass and bastard, I bet you could get away with on, like, CBC. Like a national broadcast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In Australia, you can say shit on the morning shows.
I've heard bullshit on the radio.
Yeah.
I've heard people say bullshit.
Bullshit's different, but, like, oh, that's shit.
Yeah.
They'll say that. Like, I listen to Kyle and Jackie O in Sydney, and they say shit all the time.
go,
I'm like, well, how does that happen? I mean, that's different culture. But anyway, it
like those kids don't know those words.
It seemed a bit funny that people got upset about, like, if you're taking your kid to that parade and you're going to listen to the speeches, those guys have been drunk for like 6 days. I kind of know at that point that I'm going to be like, okay, don't repeat what you hear, but you know,
so watching like old Rock'em Sock'em VHSs with my parents, you know, we watched the hits, whoa, and Tabarecci, you know, huge saves like that. But one of my most favorite parts was, you know, they show a guy like Pat Burns, and you can read his lips. You could just read his lips. And me and my dad giggling at the same time. Because I think swearing's hilarious because I'm a kid and you're not supposed to say those words, but there's a grown-up who could probably beat up my dad saying them. And my dad's giggling too.
When Pat Burns swore, his mullet swore with him.
Oh,
like it came
pronounced
with him.
With a mustache?
Yes. It was
mustache. Mustache is the original all caps. It was how you really punctuated your verbiage. It was just the best. Like, everyone calm down. Kids by like 8 know everything.
And are saying them.
Yeah.
I was saying them in grade 1.
And hockey fans, they probably know it by about 6 months in the womb. Yeah, just relax, everybody.
So that brings us to the White House.
Ah, good. Oh, this one so early? Good. Mm-hmm. Great. Happy. Yeah, no, I was talking to somebody about it. And, you know, we we made a big deal about the Penguins going last year. Mm-hmm. And so it'd be remiss if we didn't bring it up again. We were gonna bring up the fact that a bunch of the Capitals took a picture with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. And everyone just stop making dumb excuses for them. Like, stop making any excuses for them, but stop making particularly dumb ones. Oh, they were drunk and they had no idea. Hey, come over here. Some blonde wants a picture. Come on. You don't know it's her.
One of the most recognizable faces in the world.
The president's daughter / coworker. For some reason, they knew and they didn't care.
You wouldn't take a picture of Ivanka Trump if she wanted to take a picture with you?
No.
That's interesting.
Would you?
If she was a fan of your LFR videos and she ran into you at Jack Astor's and said, "Hey, Steve, can we take a picture?" You wouldn't.
No.
You wouldn't take a picture with her?
I'd tell her I'm eating my chicken fingers. Get away.
I don't believe that. When
I'm at Jack Astor's, it's my chicken fingers and fries, and sometimes I get the beer and cheddar soup.
Question I have.
It's nice and cold.
Question I have is, when you run into somebody like that, when you disagree with their opinions, and specifically the opinions of their father.
Disagree with their opinions. I'm so sick of this. Sorry, go ahead.
I do disagree with their opinions. Is that wrong?
No, like people keep saying like, oh man, like whatever happened to having a political argument? Her father is a monster. Okay. An actual monster. He's not a bad politician. He's a fucking monster.
That's not the point of the conversation.
That's not the point.
What is the point of the conversation?
The point of the conversation
isn't whether or not you like Donald Trump. The point of the conversation is, are you going to separate this person from their work and them just being a fan of you?
Absolutely not. No.
Well, I don't think anybody would give us that.
It's too high profile.
Like,
sure.
let's say one of us went out and said something racist, or one of us went out and said something sexist. Do you think that we would get that sort of separation?
Sure.
You do?
But no. I mean, like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, sure.
So for me, if I meet just about anybody, I'm going to be polite. I don't have to like you, but my opinion of you is not going to change. Or sorry, my opinion of you, the way I act towards you, my respect for everyone is not going to change just because I happen to despise you. I still believe that you can't let other people change the way that you act, because then they're affecting you. So I am always polite, so I will always be polite. So in that case,
that's separating what this person is by the way you're treating them. You're not going to treat somebody more poorly because of what they do in the rest of their life.
That said,
you still respect them.
Not sure I'd take a picture.
No.
Okay.
That said, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't be rude. I'll never be rude. I just don't want to be rude. I'm just not like, that would be not me.
I'll be rude.
All right. Rude Steve.
I'll be rude.
I like
screw
Rude
her,
Steve.
Screw her husband, screw everyone who works for that administration. Screw them.
So okay.
I don't care.
The thing is that what's interesting about the Caps and the Pens and all this stuff is that none of it's surprising. Like, is the reason that it's not a big deal this year, and I understand why Pens fans are pissed off, because we kind of went in on the Pens a little bit, and the fact is, I think it's just that now we're a little bit more. I guess we expected it.
Yeah, because it's common of the Trumps to use sports as a political platform.
Would it cause...
Stick to sports, Trumps.
Would it cause...
Said all the people criticizing us, I'm sure.
Stop for a sec.
It's hard.
I know. But would it cause an international incident?
You know what? You know why it's hard to stop, Adam? But like, just before you continue, everyone thinks I'm going to get tired. Everyone thinks I'm going to get tired. I'm not going to get tired. There's too much coffee in the world. Stop listening to the show if you don't like it. Yes, Adam?
All I'm saying, if there was one guy who could flip off the president and still get an invite to the White House, Steph Curry couldn't do it, LeBron couldn't do it, the Eagles couldn't do it, the Seahawks couldn't do it, it's Alexander Ovechkin. Ovechkin could say F Trump in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue, right on the way to the White House.
To song.
And honestly, Trump would still invite him, because it would cause an international incident if he didn't. So anyway, it's not surprising. It is what it is. I don't like it.
It's disappointing.
Yeah. But I mean, are we surprised? What did Braden Holtby have to say about it?
Yeah, so I brought that up. This is from Katie Brown. Holtby, RE, a White House visit. Now, this is interesting. So Devontae Smith-Pelly, after Game 6, said he probably wouldn't go. And a lot of people were like, well, I bet a bunch of the Caps will go, because, let's be honest, a lot of hockey players just don't give a shit. And one thing I saw people say was, well, the swing vote here, it'll be super interesting to see what Braden Holtby does. Because he's been, to my knowledge, and I didn't look up an exact date or anything, he's been super cool with Pride for a very long time. And I want to say it was like kind of before you can play even. So that would be at least 6 years. So anyway, from Katie Brown, Braden Holtby regarding a White House visit. We're going to try and make that a group decision and weigh the positives and negatives of everything. In any situation like that, you want to make sure you're doing what's right for what you believe in, and that should take thought. Now, to me, that just strikes me as a bit of a non-answer, but it also strikes me as if it were up to him as an individual, he'd say no. Maybe it is just an assumption. Maybe it's a misread. I hope it's not. Man, like the NHL look like a bunch of idiots. They look like a bunch of jackasses.
Well, when
the Eagles aren't going, the Warriors aren't going. Why aren't they going? Why aren't they going? You're different? Like, I just hate it.
I mean, I think there's a pretty obvious answer to that, but let's not get into it. We've gotten into it. It's been debated to death on Twitter. We're all well aware of the reasons they're going. And I just think that at a certain point, I was watching Chris Matthews, who does Hardball on NBC, and he was on Stephen Colbert a couple nights ago, and they had him on for a 12-minute segment, which is really rare in late night TV.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And
or
he said,
sometimes they'll break it up with commercials.
He said, you are responsible. He said, there's a lot of groupthink going on right now. The Republicans are falling in line. The Democrats are eating each other alive and trying to fall in line, trying to get some sort of cohesion. He said, in all of this, what you have to remember, whatever side you're on here, is that you are responsible for yourself in this. So if you align yourself with the group and you lose yourself, then you've lost yourself and you don't stand for anything. And I think, the NHL players, it's no skin off their back, but that's part of the problem. I think that the NFL players and the NBA players are legitimately standing up for something that directly affects them. And I think in the NHL's case, probably not as much. Now, I think everybody's got to take a step back. I realize that there are people that listen to this show that hate it on both sides. The fact is, don't agree, don't at me with it, don't care. I don't want to hear it, I don't agree. Fair?
I've told you for like the last year and a half, all the people who come back at us when we talk about this stuff, all they've done is confirm that we have a great show. You're still here. What are you still doing here? You're still here. We're great. That's what I took from this.
All right. So next on the agenda, and this is where it's going to get tough. Okay. So we got to talk about the Ottawa Senators, and
holy mackerel.
So it's hard to know kind of where to start here, but let's start with, as somebody sagely told me, let's start with what we know. There's a couple incidences going on. One that really should be getting more attention than it is. One that unfortunately is getting attention that I don't think was ever wanted, and we're going to start with that one. That is Melinda Karlsson.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going with the other thing.
No,
we'll get to that later.
Because Melinda Karlsson didn't want this to go public.
Yeah, and I'm a little... okay.
Let me introduce the whole thing.
You go ahead.
In case you don't know all the details, I'm taking this, and I apologize for the pronunciation on this, but Shamini Yergardam from the Ottawa Citizen, she's the one who had the big scoop here, and she said this: Melinda Karlsson has filed an application for an order of protection against longtime girlfriend of Senators forward Mike Hoffman, alleging a campaign of harassment that plagued the Karlssons after the death of their son and through much of last NHL season. The application of the peace bond was sworn in front of a justice of the peace May 4th, and it alleges that Monica Carrick,
I would say Carrick,
Hoffman's partner, has threatened Melinda and husband Erik from November 2017 to the date the information was sworn to. There's an active Ottawa police investigation into the criminal harassment, quote, stalking allegations. And that's being probed by the Central District detectives. No conditions were set out in the peace bond because Carrick has not been served with it yet. So she actually hasn't gotten the papers yet. Now, Hoffman's camp is denying it. And Erik Karlsson obviously was targeted in this too. And we've seen that, the comment that's been floating around.
For anyone who hadn't seen it, there was one particularly heinous comment under a photo that Karlsson posted after his son Axel was stillborn. And the comment was basically like, I feel sorry for the baby because, his mom was taking pain medication the entire pregnancy. And that's basically why it happened, was the implication. And Karlsson responded. And so it was amazing. Like, To see some of the hateful comments and go, oh, I wonder which one of them she contributed. She contributed the one. The one.
Allegedly.
Yeah, you don't.
Allegedly, sorry. That is what is being alleged. Now, so
hold on.
The alleged.
Let me just keep going with this because I got to set this up properly.
Yes.
According to the court documents from Melinda Karlsson, she also uttered that she wished I was dead and that somebody would, quote, take out my husband's legs to, quote, end his career. Monica Carrick has posted over 1,000 negative and derogatory statements about me as a professional. Through the application, which was sworn in early May, nearly 1 month after the Sens season ended in Boston, team officials, including general manager Pierre Dorion and Hoffman, have known about the allegations since the end of the regular season. Reached Tuesday afternoon, Hoffman said, there's nothing really for me to say at this time. That's all I can say. In a subsequent comment, Hoffman said there is 150% chance that my fiance Monica and I are not involved in any of the accusations that have been pursued and that are coming our way. Now, what's interesting here is that Erik Karlsson allegedly actually went up and talked to Mike Hoffman about this. There was some sort of incident in a parking lot as well. So that's been known. And Greg Wyshynski tweeted yesterday that the Senators have been trying to trade Hoffman for a while, and everybody in the league knew it was a personal issue. They just didn't know what it was. And that's the thing. So I asked somebody that's in the know, and I said, so because the confirmed trade at the trade deadline was Hoffman to the Jets, and he turned it down, right?
Right.
So what was interesting about that is these allegations would have been out at that point, at least personally to them.
Yes.
So he would have known. And he turned that trade down, and I said, so is that something that Ottawa has to tell the team that they're trading the player to? And what I was told was they don't. Ottawa all they have to do is, are there any injuries that would impede his ability to play? No? Okay. So that's something that Ottawa would not have had to disclose, and I can guarantee you they desperately did not want this getting out. And then they went out and tweeted yesterday, and John Shannon was the first guy to break this, and then Ottawa obviously put out the statement saying that they are conducting an investigation. The question I have for that is, when did that investigation start? Mm-hmm. Was it yesterday, or was it a month and a half ago when all of this was put into court?
Do you think at any point over the past couple days, or whenever he might have found out, Kevin Cheveldayoff called up Pierre Dorion and said, you got some explaining to do?
I don't think you could get Pierre Dorion right now.
If he had that trade on the table and the only thing that stopped it was Hoffman, and he didn't know, come on. That's some horrible faith right there.
Absolutely.
That's really bad.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
God, there's so many layers to the onion. So it is all alleged. Mm-hmm. This is what I started saying. It's all alleged. What is important is the Karlssons think it was her, right? This wasn't some external investigation. Who could this evil person be? We think it's this person. No, the Karlssons think it's her. And I mean, that's got to be irreparable in terms of the relationship.
No matter how this goes, they're not on the same team next year. Neither player is
impossible.
Impossible. I think, it would be hard for me to believe that either player is going to be on the team next year. Now, they're not together, but they're also both going to get traded this summer.
Oh, the Sens are so screwed.
Well, and here's
screwed.
Here's what I was thinking about this, and again, everything from this point on is conjecture. Let's make that abundantly clear. We don't know. We were not there. We don't know.
No. The wives and girlfriends of players were there.
Let me get to that.
Sure.
I've got other things to set up here first.
So I never know the depth of your genius, Adam.
No, there's no depth of genius. I'll tell you why I'm inclined to take this, and I hesitate to say believe it, because I'm a real believer in going, okay, show me the facts first. Show me the facts. And the fact is, all that stuff right now is private. It's pending court, and we'll see when that comes out. It's kind of like the depositions with the concussion stuff, which we can get to later. I'm inclined to take this seriously for several reasons. The first thing is private investigators are not hard to find and not that expensive. You have to believe that if you're going to make an accusation like this in a court of law, that if you don't have the proof to back this up, you are opening yourself up to a defamation of character lawsuit, which can be very expensive, especially when the two parties involved, Karlsson and Hoffman, both make multi-million dollars, right?
Well, and if you go public with it.
And I don't
She
think
did not.
Melinda didn't want to go public with
So
this.
the reason
This was
this
something
did go public is because it was in a court document.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So I feel like, and here's the thing, as we've seen with Brian Colangelo, and that was actually far harder, I think, to crack than this would have been. It's not hard to track burner accounts. It's not.
Oh, we already went through this. It's so easy. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I do find it very... Allegedly, yeah.
Do we have to continue saying that?
I think we've said it enough.
Yeah.
I think we know. I do think that this is one that you take seriously just because of the fact that these are... it's the type of accusation that splits a locker room in half. So you have to think Erik Karlsson as the captain and Melinda are weighing this and going... we have a responsibility to the team here, although really their first responsibility should be to themselves. But I know, his character and her character would dictate, from what I understand anyway, that they would take that into consideration and that they would want to make sure, and as they tried to do, keep this private, because this is one of those things that Ottawa just does not need right now. They're already a mess, and then you've got this and the Randy Lee situation, which we'll get to. So I feel like... now what we've got to look at, or now what we've got to do is just kind of wait. Now I have Julie Hammond and Julie Turris and Marley Hammond's tweets. So Julie Turris, who now, I mean, it's funny because she can tweet this because she's in Nashville now. She said, "This crossed the line from cyberbullying to something entirely different in April. Unfortunate that this private matter has become public. Incredibly proud of my girl for standing up for herself and her family. It took courage. Now,
See, I forgot that she was in Nashville, Adam. That's a really good point.
she's not associated with the organization anymore.
So who
Kyle
were the
has
four?
Huh?
Who were the four? There were four.
The four.
So it was Julie Turris.
All I have is Marley Hammond and Julie Turris. Is there a couple more?
There was I forget her name, but she's Jason LaBarbera's wife.
Okay.
And there was one more.
Jesse, can we look those up?
At least three of the four are not currently on the Sens.
Marley Hammond. Oh man, if you knew how unsurprising this actually is.
Yeah.
Horrible, just horrible. And the worst part about this is how Melinda Karlsson, just wanted to keep this private because she's that nice of a person, even when a person can be this cruel to her.
I mean, that is kind of what I'm getting stuck up on, and I guess we haven't really talked about it yet, is the Karlssons just don't need this. It's
I don't think anybody needs. I mean,
no, nobody needs it. But it's just you think you've been through enough, you know. And this is it. And then they're going through the actual trial, and now it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the other two wives were Libera, like you said, and Taylor Winnick.
Who is
Taylor
going
Winnick.
Do we have the? Can you read the tweets?
So I was interested. I'm sorry. What is Erik Karlsson's wife's name?
Melinda.
Right. Was Melinda on Hockey Wives?
I don't think so.
Because Ms. LaBarbera and Taylor Winnick were. I don't think either of their husbands ever played with Hoffman or Karlsson. That's why I was confused about them.
Well, I'm sure it's a small community, right? Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, probably.
Odette? Is that how you pronounce her name?
Odette. Yes,
Odette.
Thank you.
She said her fixation with Mel has always been unhealthy. Then it became scary. So glad Mel is protecting herself. No team will welcome this girl to the room.
Whoa.
And then Taylor said, I've read hundreds of these comments being made. They are unrelenting, methodical, and disturbing. This person has no business going anywhere near the women in the hockey community ever again.
So
wow.
How do you read that? Is she referring to the comments directed at the Karlssons specifically, or she's just saying, I've read a lot of really mean stuff in the past?
I don't know.
I was a little confused.
Read it again.
It sounds
one more
more
time.
pointed, actually.
This is the one from Taylor Winnick. She said, I've read hundreds of these comments being made. They are unrelenting, methodical, and disturbing. This person has no business going anywhere near the women in the hockey community ever again.
Methodical means that it's directed at her.
This person, she's referring to one person.
Well, here's what I found really fascinating, and I'm going to rewind a little bit, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, so tell me if I'm crazy here. But when they first put this article out in the Ottawa Citizen, and then they updated it with Mike Hoffman's new comments and that sort of thing. So when I initially read it, the only comment from Hoffman was, "There's nothing really for me to say at this time. That's all I can say."
And
then he comes out after it explodes on social media about 3 hours later. We get something from the Ottawa Sun talking about how they completely deny all of it. There was a 150% chance my fiance Monica and I are not involved in any of these accusations that have been pursued and that are coming our way.
And then
I find that funny that wasn't the first thing. Do you not?
I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to fire off a quick little statement. He could have maybe been a little more firm. But there was another comment after. This is how serious it got so quickly. He just basically said, like, any inquiries, like, will now go through my lawyer.
Yes.
Or our lawyer.
Well, I mean,
her lawyer. I don't know if
that makes sense, though. Of course, you'd put it through your lawyer. Like, I mean, on either side, you should be speaking through your lawyer.
Now, regardless of who did it, like, it just made me wonder, like, what is trolling? Like, what? Because there's people online who are jerks once or twice, or several times. And then there's people who are serial jerks. They're jerks pretty much all the time. But then there's this. What is this? Like, what does this fall under?
Well, we got an email this afternoon from somebody who, and I appreciated this email. So even though I disagree with it, I appreciated where they were coming from.
Okay.
And what they said was, please consider treating this as, that this could be a mental health thing. That this could be a situation where somebody is mentally unwell and this is what's happening. Now, the problem I have with that is that I think that mental health is being used wrongly in many occasions. And I've talked to people with those issues who have this issue with it. It's, I did something wrong, but I got this mental health issue.
It's not carte blanche to be an asshole.
Exactly. It's not an excuse in that particular case. And I think it's a pretty grand assumption of us to say it is or it isn't.
Well, yes, but also you can I've read enough comments where you can tell the difference between a person who's just being a jerk and, like, okay, yeah, you need some help. I think you need some professional help.
Well, and if
this person
this is her, whoever's
right.
behind it does. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you have a mental health problem. That means that you get some sort of satisfaction out of this. That's not a disease. That's a behavior. And I think that's, to me, that's the difference. I mean, and I'm not a doctor. Feel free to call me out on this and be wrong, but that's just my opinion. I don't think.
Go ahead. Please call in and defend trolling.
I just
What's our 1-800 number?
To me, and listen, maybe it is, but at the end of the day, we have got to be able to say some people straight up fucking suck, right? Some people are that mean.
Yeah.
We've encountered them. You know that that's the case, and you can't. It's unfair to people who have legitimate problems, have legitimate issues. It's unfair to them to go, oh, well, chalk it up to mental health and forget about it. I don't think so, man. I think at a certain point, you just have to take accountability for you're a shitty person and it's time to improve.
And 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000's a lot.
Over 1,000.
I don't think I've made 1,000 comments on Instagram total ever.
What else are you doing?
Like in my life.
You're rich.
Yeah, but
go do rich things. Go do anything else.
That sounds like a mental problem.
It does. And that's why...
It's a fixation.
It's hard, like, because I'm going between what Adam said and the devil's advocate, which is there's clearly something the matter here. Like, this isn't just a jerk.
I guess my point in what I'm trying to say, and I don't know if I've been clear, it's difficult to... It's not just because somebody does something evil doesn't mean that they have a mental health problem. Sometimes people just do evil shit, is my point.
I would say it doesn't excuse it. Like, oh, well, Your Honor. You have to understand. No, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Now, people are asking the question, did Hoffman know? Did Hoffman not know? I mean, you'll never know the answer to that question. You will never, ever know the answer to that question.
If you didn't know, it sounds like Karlsson told him.
Right. And imagine not knowing, and then someone comes up to you.
Finding out.
I come up to you and say, SL's been doing this to Caprice. You'd say, no, she's effing not.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the thing, right? You got to look at it in those terms. Like, think about going up to one of your friends and saying, by the way, your wife is making terrible comments about my wife, and hearing that for the first time. What are the chances you believe that?
Oh,
if you're completely unaware, which I mean,
no, I think it's in your nature to believe the person you love most. You know, of course, it would take a while to process for sure. It would take a lot of convincing. And I mean, at some point, if he does believe that she did it, he must really love her. Stay together, man. Must really love her. That's great. Again, for the 90th time, allegedly. It's so dark. It's so dark, and I can't help but feel like we're going to get a lot more of these stories. Is it a coincidence that this happened like within 2 weeks of the Colangelo thing?
I don't know. No, I don't. I think it is.
Well, I mean, they both happened. So I can't help but feel like this is happening more.
I think it's a coincidence.
Yeah?
Because the court case was filed before Colangelo.
It was 6 weeks ago.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then, but the actions of the both of them were going on at the same time, right? So, they were doing something before going to court. Colangelo and the Colangelo family, whatever, they were doing.
I don't think there's a connection there. I think there's two completely separate things. But I do agree with you when you say we'll see more of this.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely agree. 100%.
Well, Adam, how can we avoid cyberbullying?
Well, okay. Can we pause just for a second, just because I need to get us headphones because I got to play something for us. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
So here's something that happened on Hockey Central at noon. We are going to talk.
When did it happen?
It happened about 5:17 in, and I'm going to thank Mike Stevens, who I met for the first time at the Calder Cup last night.
About
5 past noon.
There you go.
noon 05.
No? Okay.
No, not noon 05. No, nothing.
I went for the high five. Here, can I have a...
Sure. I'll hand out high fives.
Neither of us
Mike Stevens was the one that actually tweeted this, and I had to bug him and say, man, when did that happen? Because, quite frankly, the comments are a little shocking. And I don't mean to, the internet right now is so full of hyperbole that I hesitate to say that I was floored. I was thrown on the ground and took out my knees. You know what I mean?
Preposterous.
It's crazy. But it was a little bit like, really? Okay. So I wanted to hear it in context because I think it's only fair to do that. And I have been taken out of context before, and it sucks. And I've been guilty of doing it to other people, and I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, heavens, Adam, you wouldn't want to be misquoted.
So Damien Cox made a comment, and they were talking, Darren Millard, Damien Cox, talking about today on Hockey Central at noon, the Melinda Karlsson and the Erik Karlsson situation. And I'm picking it up at 5:17. If you want to listen to the podcast yourself, you can hear it.
On your favorite podcatcher.
On your favorite podcatcher.
Catch it. Catch
it on your favorite podcatcher. Are we ready?
Yes.
So the timing of it is really strange. But what we've been able to see is somebody has been really awful to Melinda Karlsson.
Right. Now, I mean, I think the one thing about social media that we're learning more and more, and I think all of us have experienced, you can only be cyberbullied to some extent if you allow yourself to be. Correct. If you go on social media, if you participate in social media, if it's something that's important to you, then you are vulnerable to that. Mm-hmm. If you say, I'm not going to have anything to do with that, then you're not as vulnerable to it. So that's part of this story, which is a multifaceted story. I think we'd agree it has to do with where we are as a culture in 2018, as much as hockey and as much as individual things.
But we all have the right to go on social media and not be bullied.
And I'm glad that Darren Millard said that.
Was there anything after that?
There was. It gets into I mean, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I would actually.
And I guess the issue is what is bullying, what isn't bullying, what is proper conduct, what isn't proper conduct, what you think.
How many times have you reported?
Never.
I've reported probably 10, 12 times.
I have
off the top of my head. I've reported.
I've been threatened with a lawsuit for something I wrote on Twitter. I've had it's an unusual platform. One thing you have to remember about Twitter, for starters, most people aren't on it. Instagram, most people aren't on it.
No, that's right. Yeah,
it's a very small reflection of the world in general.
But of the 12 times I've reported, 12 times I've got a notice back saying, We don't agree.
Yeah, I know. It is the Wild West. It really is the Wild West.
Like, you have a right to go on there and not be bullied. I reported it.
By
what
the
I
way,
thought was awful.
Yeah.
We don't agree.
Your life will go on without it.
Oh, I mean,
it's part of our business.
Well, that's an interesting question because is it part of our business? We are certainly encouraged to be participants in it and to be aware of it. But at the same time, and I think you can say this, our employers draw a hard line at certain things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we want you out there. Stop there.
Yeah.
And it becomes a very, very difficult thing. It's not easy. And it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to not respond to people. I mean,
you
this morning, no, I sometimes do. I don't do as much as I used to. But even this morning, I've had like some vicious things said to me. You don't respond. But that doesn't mean you don't necessarily notice that there's vicious things being said to you that have nothing to do with anything you may or may not have said.
And Erik and Melinda are a brand.
Hold on a sec. So
what's the quote from the beginning?
The quote, I have it written out verbatim here.
Okay, please read that.
And this is lifted out of that conversation. It hits harder a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to listen to more because I'm like, all right, if we give him more runway, does he land the plane safely?
I think the one thing about social media that we're learning more and more is that I think all of us have experienced. You can only be cyberbullied to some extent if you allow yourself to be. If you go on social media, if you participate in social media, if it's something you participate in, then you are vulnerable. If you say, I'm not going to participate in that, then you're not as vulnerable. So that's part of the story, which is multifaceted. And then it goes on from there.
So you only read that one part.
You can only be cyberbullied to some extent if you allow yourself to be. If you go on social media...
You only get cyberbullied if you allow yourself to be. What do you think of that?
Well,
that's the problem. I had a problem with that particular line.
Yeah, you had a problem with it? I want to hear what you said.
Well, my problem is this.
Because I do have something to say.
I mean, Darren Millard and John Shannon's in there too. And I want to stress that I have a tremendous amount of respect for John Shannon and for Darren Millard and, for, the work that Damian Cox has put in as well. I don't agree with most of what he says, but as I said before, I want to be respectful of people. I have a really hard time, and I think this is a generational divide. I really do believe that John and Damian, John to a lesser extent because he's barely in on the conversation that we heard, but it's the older view that, well, you're on your own. And Darren's kind of got the new view, which is, no, you don't have to be bullied. You don't have to be. Well, that's not a part of it. And the problem I have with this is you can only be cyberbullied to some extent if you allow yourself to be, if you participate. That's the same for life. You can only be bullied in life if you choose to participate. You can only be bullied if you choose to breathe.
Steve, I know grade 5 is rough.
Yeah.
Have you considered not showing up?
What does it mean when allowing yourself to be bullied on social media? What does that mean?
Listening to the rest of that conversation, I bet he wishes he worded it differently.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think he meant anything malicious.
No, I just think he's wrong. But no, what I think he meant, and he's not incorrect, is if you live in the social world, there are lunatics. There are jerks, and people are going to say all kinds of things to you.
If you live in the world, there are lunatics, and people are going to say all kinds of things to you.
But in the world, it's enforced. But the idea, and Millard brought up the great point, like everyone has a right to exist on these platforms.
Yeah.
Until they abuse the privilege. Mm-hmm. They have a right to post an Instagram picture for crying out loud. But no, I was sort of talking about it. I got bullied and it got particularly bad in grade 5. And the only thing that really stopped it was I had a growth spurt and could, it stopped being fat and I could catch them. And they were a lot nicer to me after that. But when it was the worst, it's what do I just stop showing up to school? Mm-hmm. It was worse at the bus stop. Do I stop taking the bus? I have a right to be on that bus. In the same way, I had a right to go to school. I have a right to be on Instagram. I have a right to be on Twitter.
And not be harassed for it.
So, you know what? And if you don't go on social media, correct, you won't be cyberbullied. And if you don't leave your house, yes, everyone will leave you alone. Nah, but then you're gonna get prank calls, and you're gonna get people
Shannon
calling
said,
you from Burundi and Seychelles.
He said
with a scam.
He said you can live without it, and that to me is the point is not to live without. The point is to embrace life and to have as much of your experiences be positive as possible. And the fact of the matter is, whether or not you can drop social media and not get bullied through social media, as you said, you have the right to be on there and not be harassed for it.
Was it just a roundabout? Was it a roundabout and poor way of saying don't read the comments?
No, I don't think so. I think it was. I think it's an old school versus a new school version of it. I think that my parents were kind of old school in the sense that you didn't like, if you got bullied, well, then don't go there. Don't hang around those people. And
got that before.
And that's quite frankly not the way we view things anymore. And so I feel like in this particular case, what you're seeing is a generational divide. I don't think any harm was meant, but at the same time, I think that view has to change. There's a reason why that view didn't work. There's a reason why that view doesn't stand up to criticism. And in Damien's case, it's just you pull that, you can only be cyberbullied to some extent if you allow yourself to be, and you take that on Twitter. That's people are going to go, what? And I think Damien takes some of the worst shit I've seen, but Damien, has that view. If it does it bother him? I'm sure it does.
I mean, most people didn't know his response because they're blocked.
Is he just trying to say that if you sign up for the service, that there are people who will troll you on there?
Is he merely stating this is a thing that happens?
Yeah, is he, by saying allowing yourself to be bullied, he's saying by signing up for the service, there are people who may bully you, and you're entering that world by signing up. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, and he's saying that should be acceptable. Now I want to read you a tweet that he wrote last night.
No, I don't think he's saying that.
He said you had to accept that. That's what he's saying.
Well,
and hang on, let me read you a tweet from last night. He said, "Doesn't it seem a little bizarre that Karlsson and Hoffman couldn't quietly straighten this out during the season?" And that was 22 hours ago. So he tweeted that last night.
Those strike me as two differently bad takes. You know what I mean? They're bad, but they're different in the way that they're
I don't
bad.
think they're related.
Yeah. They're about the same story.
Yeah.
I disagree with both. I want to be clear.
I think they add context to what he said today. I think that tweets adds context.
No, when did he send that?
I think that he sent that last night as the story was breaking.
So he said that and then said...
22 hours ago he sent it.
Okay.
So to me, I think he thinks that this is silly. Because... quite frankly, that tweet suggests that he doesn't think that this is something that, that he thinks that this is just some spat and that it's something that, is blown way out of proportion.
That's what it suggests. Than a spat, Damo. A little bit more than a spat.
The long story short is, again, I think it's a difference of generations. And you're going to find that. You are.
Yeah. I think there's a reason in that clip John Shannon speaks the least. He's probably the least frequent tweeter out of them. Mm-hmm. Millard doesn't do much.
He also never said it was silly. That's also...
He never did.
Yeah.
No. But
this is you extrapolating.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I know that.
That's what Adam Wilde said. No,
For me, that's what I deduced from it.
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem a little bizarre that Karlsson and Hoffman couldn't quietly straighten this out during the season?
I want to know if he did the little head shake while saying it.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, don't change your voice when you're...
Doesn't it seem a little bizarre?
You can't change your voice to add context
How do you
to
read
his
that?
words.
How do you read that?
I don't... Idiots.
Is there a kind way to read that?
Stupid.
Is there a kind way to read that? Is there an empathetic way to read that?
No, there isn't. No.
But you have to add a voice to it.
No,
But how does this affect the Leafs?
That's what you do.
I would never read a Justin Fisher tweet that way. I would read it with a boastful confidence.
Anyway.
But how does this affect the Leafs?
Yeah.
And a general curiosity.
I think though that is the kind of stuff that we have got to educate people on. I think that this whole idea that you signing up for social media means you signed up for bullying is bullshit, and that needs to change. And that's something, quite frankly, within this organization that I think should be addressed. Whether or not it is, not up to me. But I think that this is the kind of stuff that we got to change in this building. We got to change in every building.
Yeah, if someone follows you around and just calls you a dickhead, Everywhere you go. You
At
go to buy
work.
a sandwich, they
Say
call
they
you
do it at
dickhead.
work.
They do it at work. You go to the bathroom. You go to the bank. They call you dickhead. That's their thing.
Hey, dickhead.
The dickhead guy. They just say, hey, dickhead. Something happens to that person because you have a right to just walk around and go about your day. And it's the same way that you're allowed to be on Twitter or
Well, imagine
Instagram. But the difference, and Darren pointed this out, nothing happens. Nothing friggin' happens.
Well,
Like I've said this a few times. I am so ready to be done with these social platforms that we're currently on. There hasn't been a new one used by most, I would say, in years. And like it seemed like it was rapid fire. Like it started a little bit slow. It was Facebook and Twitter came after and Tumblr. And then there was like this explosion in Instagram and Snapchat and all these. And like what was the last one? What was the last?
Snapchat's the most recent one.
And how old's that? Like 5 years?
Yeah.
Easily.
It's stagnant. It's stagnant.
I think there's only so many ways you can be social. You got to remember a lot of platforms too that started off one way of integrated pieces of other platforms, right?
And then if you invent a new one, how do you prevent that one from,
don't.
festering the way Facebook had? Facebook is a wasteland.
Okay, but let's
It's
not
the
get into that.
road warrior.
Let's not get into
Okay,
that.
sorry.
That we're off topic here.
Sorry.
The point is, if
No, I mean, no, I don't
hold
think
on,
so, but-
just hang on.
all right.
If you go to work every day and someone follows you around and calls you a dickhead all the time,
Hey, dickhead.
you didn't sign up for that.
No.
Oh, have you considered not going to work? No.
Yeah.
Just like you said, have you considered not going to grade 5?
How bad do you need a job?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the same thing, the same rules have to apply with social media. I'm sorry, they just
Right.
do. Now, let's consider the hockey side for a second. Now that the personal side's out of it.
Sure.
From a purely hockey perspective, and we're not getting into the Randy Lee stuff just yet, but we still need to. No matter how this turns out, Hoffman and Karlsson cannot be teammates next year. Now that everyone knows you have to make a trade, and nobody's going to want Hoffman until they know for sure that he's not involved in this. You can guarantee it. No one's going to go, you know what? I want that Hoffman. I'm going to trade for that Hoffman guy. And I know that's rich because Slava Voinov might make a return.
I was about to say, man.
But are you gonna
you'd
really?
be surprised? Someone will take that headache for sure.
Is Karlsson
For sure.
Is Karlsson's value affected by this because they know now? Teams know they have to trade him. He has to go. He's going to want out. Why would he want to stay?
Is the most effective thing Pierre Dorian could do as a GM not answer the phone?
Oh no, he's got to make a trade here. He's got to make a move.
Well, he
doesn't have a choice now. He has to make a move.
And have we considered that the Sens don't even have a first-round pick for next year?
Well, and that's
They're
what I want to get.
so screwed.
Because you're trading Karlsson.
This might be the most screwed I've seen a team over the last decade.
Let me put it into context here. Because you're trading Karlsson,
Yes.
you have the 4th overall this year, but you probably should give that up. Because if you keep it and you trade Karlsson and maybe Hoffman and maybe you can't sign Stone, so you got to trade him too, who's playing goalie for you next year? Craig Anderson? And is Matt Duchene going to stay after next year? No, you're going to probably have to trade him too. You don't have your first pick next year, and you could be giving up the number 1 pick in the draft. I am calling the Avs, and I am offering them anything I have for it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The sleeper pick to get Karlsson? Colorado.
No. They have to fold the team. They have to fold the team. You're not allowed.
Like
How soon are the Ottawa Senators not in Ottawa?
I think they stay in Ottawa.
I don't think Eugene Melnyk owns this team next year, for sure.
you don't think so, eh?
No. it's
What-
not.
Well, you know what they always say in business: sell low.
No, but after all of this is resolved, I think that's the next step you take within the organization.
Can you do that? Can you kick an owner out like they did in
I
the
don't
NBA?
think he should want to own the team anymore. I don't
a
think
great point,
he's
Jesse.
in a
Why does-
position to want to own the team.
Why
like,
does he
personally.
want the Ottawa Senators?
Yeah.
he shouldn't.
No, and I think that's probably the next move after this is all resolved. Next summer, this team isn't owned by Melnyk, and probably, I don't know, if they don't get a new stadium, they're out of Ottawa.
I mean, I think they're going to find it. I think all they need is someone with comparable financials, and there are many people out there that have the same amount of money or more than Eugene Melnyk. Comparable financials who is easy enough to do a deal with. The problem is that we're applying logic, and I tweeted this earlier, to the Ottawa Senators. and specifically...
An NHL team, in fairness.
Well, specifically to Eugene Melnyk. You're suggesting the logical thing for him to do is to sell the team, and I agree. I absolutely, at this point, it's time for him to not be the owner there anymore. But Eugene Melnyk is the guy that thought it was a smart idea to get on television and talk about how they might have to move the team and then have to walk it back 2 days later, right before they're having an outdoor game.
How soon until we see his press conference on this? On all the Karlsson stuff.
Bruins in 5.
Oh my God.
Can't wait for that. Take a shot at the Leafs again, Eugene.
It's so bad.
Now,
it's so bad.
Let's get to Randy Lee.
I feel bad for Sens fans because they got...
Well, feel even worse. Hang on to that.
Nothing. Oh, I know.
Hang on to that.
Oh, I know.
Randy Lee, which we have not discussed too much on this show because, quite frankly, we didn't know as much as we now know. This is from Katie Strang, who has had an unbelievable stream of articles for The Athletic this week. I mean, just in general, but holy moly, she's on it. The 19-year-old Buffalo shuttle driver who said Ottawa Senators assistant general manager Randy Lee harassed him has obtained an order of protection against the longtime team executive. According to a temporary order of protection obtained by The Athletic, Lee must stay 100 feet away, the 1 block radius, blah, 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 blah. Lee was ordered to refrain from assault, stalking, harassment, aggravated harassment, menacing, reckless endangerment, strangulation, criminal obstruction of breathing circulation, disorderly conduct, criminal mischief, sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, forcible touching, intimidation, threats, or any criminal offense or interference with the victims or victims of designated witnesses to the alleged offense.
What are these things you're reading?
Are those separate charges?
This is part of the harassment claim. He's got a temporary order of protection. That's part of what's listed in it. So he said, Lee. So basically, in the agreement, it'll tell you don't do anything to the witnesses. Don't talk to the witnesses. Don't threaten the witnesses. Don't do anything to the witnesses because the witnesses obviously are going to be the witness to the case. The order, which is considered standard in cases of harassment and assault, remains in force until October 1st. Lee asked the shuttle driver, this is according to the Erie County District Attorney, Lee asked the shuttle driver if he could sit in the front seat with him, and he was told he could. During the roughly 1 mile drive from 716, a local sports bar, to the hotel, Lee proceeded to rub the man's shoulders. The shuttle driver asked Lee to stop. Flynn said, this is the Erie County District Attorney, John J. Flynn, Lee didn't stop. When they arrived at the hotel, he made a lewd comment about the man's genitals. Now, if he's found guilty, apparently the fine, it's like a $250 fine. It's like a bizarre, I know, it's like a bizarre.
Okay, so the assistant general manager of the Ottawa Senators was in Buffalo for a pre-draft scout.
Yep.
And was taking a shuttle bus from a bar to a hotel. And in the 1 mile drive, he rubbed the shoulders of the bus driver and made lewd comments about his genitals when they arrived back at the hotel.
All true.
And now he's being arraigned in court.
Arraigned
in court on these charges, and has been told to stay away from the bus driver. And if he is found guilty, he will face a $250 fine.
Jesse.
Bingo.
So that's
mackerel. That's amazing.
We're not done. We're not done.
That's what you said.
Yes.
That's amazing what you just did.
We're not done.
I just listened, Stephen.
Wow.
So
there were no ums or ahs or anything. Anyway.
Eugene Melnyk, who has taken the reins for the Ottawa Senators, he is fully in charge right now. He's taken over as president, has hired a lawyer for this case.
Okay.
You heard this story yet? I know you have.
No.
You haven't heard this story? Let me read this out to you. And this is from Gary Dimmick from the Ottawa Citizen. Ottawa Citizen also having a good week.
Yeah, guess so.
He, Eugene, reached out to Paul J. Cambria in Sacramento. Do you guys know that name? Paul J. Cambria. Ever heard of him?
Cambria.
No.
Is that, I think I know where you're going.
Cambria is a criminal defense attorney to celebrities and professional athletes who find themselves in trouble with the law. He's represented everyone from NHL star Patrick Kane to rocker Marilyn Manson to hustler publisher Larry Flint. He has offices in LA and Buffalo. So he's hired Patrick Kane's lawyer.
Well, I think he hired the most expensive lawyer he could.
Mm-hmm.
And that is who this man sounds like. Mm-hmm. Oh my actual goodness. What a no good, awful, terrible, untoppable week for the Ottawa Senators.
If there was one person who is least equipped to handle these situations in the NHL circle, who would you say that person is?
Like in terms of like in
Who
charge
does
of
not
the
have the
team?
skills to manage this.
Eugene? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And he's the guy.
Well,
He's the guy in charge. This is like a bomb that is consistently just going off.
so, okay, one thing I saw was, and the quote was, Randy Lee won't be allowed to part of the draft. That was confusing. Did you see anything on this?
I missed that.
Can
I
you
must have
look
missed
this up?
that.
I'm going to go with,
Oh, Lee has been released on his own reconnaissance on the promise that he shows up for his next court appearance in Buffalo, June 22nd, the first day of the draft. So he probably will miss the first day because he's going to be in court.
buddy, you ought to miss the second. You ought to miss both. Like, listen, I get it. Due process, innocent until proven guilty, all that. But
There are
you
phones.
don't need this guy there.
There are phones.
There are phones. There's a variety of other ways of communicating. It would be in tremendously poor taste if this guy was at the draft.
He is available to attend the draft because the court date was moved to July 6th.
Well, there you go.
Like, forget his schedule. He shouldn't go.
And
But what does his iCal say?
so
Well,
in an email to the Associated Press, NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly said the league has no position on whether Lee can attend the draft. Daly said that decision was up to the Senators. The Senators have declined to comment since saying on June 1 they were reviewing the situation.
Interesting
So
here.
it's entirely up to the Senators whether Randy Lee will be at the NHL draft.
The league has jurisdiction here. The league can step in here. They choose not to.
yeah,
I don't think you know more than the Deputy Commissioner, Bill Daly.
He said it right there. They have no position on it, which means they can take a position. If they couldn't take a position, he would say
Interesting
we
way
can't take a
of,
position on this. It's not in our jurisdiction.
Interesting way of interpreting that.
Which
okay.
is also that's better for him. It's better for him if they've got hey, it's not up to us. We don't really have any responsibility over this. Put it on someone else. But instead,
Right.
their decision is we're not getting involved.
I understand this. Okay. Wow. Well, I just, pardon me for being stunned. Like, just about the whole, what else could possibly go wrong for the Sens? And this poor guy, this bus driver.
Only 19.
Like,
Well, and also,
he's a
is
kid. He's working for like
A
nothing.
hotel, yeah.
Who runs their AHL team? Is it Lee? Like, because I know
no.
he's, can you just give it a quick Google?
Off the top of your head, who's Ottawa's AHL team?
Belleville Senators. Belleville, Ontario. I've been to their fine arena. That's where I interviewed Andrew Hammond and also Ethan Werrick. And
Randy Lee is indeed the general manager of the Belleville Senators.
that's
There you
that guy's in charge of developing prospects. Yeah. I think the Sens got some moves to make. I think they got some decisions to make. Wow.
It's a pretty crazy case.
Like what I was seeing from most Sens fans is just when is this going to end?
Yeah.
And then there was a tweet from Travis Yost that said there's one more.
So there's something we don't know yet. Because he tweeted, "Here we go," before the story broke. Nobody knew what he was talking about.
I want to make sure I'm not misquoting him. That's absolutely unbelievable. Mm-hmm.
It's
The volume.
is an unbelievably. It was a heavy day yesterday, and then I woke up this morning.
You felt pressure this morning, man.
I felt here's what the
here,
first
my
thing I
friend.
read this morning was a very powerful piece,
Okay.
and we'll get to it next in the Players Tribune by Nick Boyton, and it's called "Everything Is Not Okay." Now, did Travis Yost tweet?
I'm still looking.
Okay. In it, and I suggest you read it. It's a long read, but it's gripping. Like every single line leads you to want to read the next line.
So he tweets, "There's always tomorrow, ? Jesus." And then he goes, "There's one more too." And of course, everyone's like, what?
No,
And
it's obviously not his
And this
story,
guy
so
does
don't-
have some inside information. So I guess there's one more.
So we'll see what.
So unnecessary to tweet, though. Hey, guys, I know something. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I
teasing a
didn't-
scandal.
Yeah, like, why are you doing that?
I hope it's just nothing like that's. You don't want to tease a personal scandal. If it's a trade or something, I get it. oh, hey, there's a trade coming. I get that.
Well, and all the people I saw in the mentions were like, tell me they're not in on Voynov.
Yeah, but
Never know. Never know.
Heard some things. So Nick Boyton, I want to really, we got to spotlight this. And Dan Carcillo made a video and I want to play the first 30 seconds of it. But first, Nick Boyton, unbelievably powerful piece. He talks about concussions. He reported, I don't know if you guys got the chance to read this. He's reported to have 10 confirmed to the NHL, right? He had 10 over the course of his career. He played for 11 years.
That's just confirmed.
But he said he probably had between 20 and 30, maybe more.
I think that's conservative.
He struggled hugely with substance abuse, and that wasn't really the root of the problem. He said the NHL and the NHLPA were always really great about me going to rehab and helping me with that, and he said they were fantastic. The problem was it didn't work. The problem was it didn't get to the root issue. I would spend months depressed and anxious, and basically he first off went to a psychologist. Second, Dan Carcillo, who he's worked closely with, hooked him up with a medical team in Orlando that actually specializes in head injuries. And one of the things that he talked about when he went in there was the right side of his brain felt heavy, and they realized that he had an eye problem. And so they fixed the eye problem, which alleviated the headaches. And then he's also got an inner ear problem that's creating some issues for him that he's got to do exercises to alleviate. So it's that. I wish he'd actually expanded on that, because I was like, really, that's really interesting. Maybe he'd be available for an interview, because I'd love to talk to him about it.
Someone brilliant out there. I'm always talking to younger people about what they can do differently, what they can bring to like sports media, what can set them apart. If someone just wrote about the medical aspect of hockey or sports in general, like that sort of thing is fascinating to me. Fascinating. And you could write huge essays on it, and they happen once in a blue moon. Like, that needs to be your thing. Someone needs to make that their thing.
And do it in a way that simpletons like us can understand it.
Of course, yeah. What is it? Any idiot can make something complicated. It takes a genius to make it simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so let's play the first 30 seconds of this video and tell me you're not hooked, because it is unbelievable.
This is Dan Carcillo.
Yep.
It's scary. Like, what's the point? What's the point of playing professional sports? And it's supposed to be for the memories, And you can't remember that anymore. It's really scary.
Dan Carcillo and Nick Boyton have both said they both won cups. They would rather have their names off the cup than live the way they're living. That's pretty powerful.
So was he saying he can't remember?
Yeah, the video goes into it. I suggest you play it. I'm not going to play the whole thing here. I think you need to see it. But this is the problem. Like, even Nick Boyton talks about the fact that he would black out towards the end of his career. So he'd get into a fight, and then someone would hit him in the head, and he'd black out, and he'd wake up in the trainer's chair, and they would show tape of him playing, and he wouldn't remember it. And this would be an hour later. There were so many hits to the head. So many of them.
Man, I go back to it. The Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez. He thought he'd lost in the second round in a fight that went 5 full rounds. And that's a guy who fights like every 4 months, something like that, max. Like, some of these, you think about, like, there's not much fighting anymore. There's still some, but you think about, like, the enforcers we grew up with. Dude, Ty Domi.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, like, who took and threw more punches over their career? Ty Domi or Mike Tyson? It might be Domi.
Mm-hmm.
It might be Domi.
Well, and Domi was bare knuckle.
And that's all bare knuckle. And you could be the best one. You could be the toughest guy, and you're still taking punches every single fight. I was looking up Dan Carcillo's career. I was having difficulty with it. 429 games played in the NHL. 1,233 penalty minutes. He had one season with the Phoenix Coyotes back when they were called that. 57 games. I don't know when he had time to score 13 goals and 11 assists for 24 points, because he had 324 penalty minutes. What? What are you talking about? In the AHL one year in 51 games, he had 311 penalty minutes. This guy fought a lot. And it starts young, man. I'm looking at his junior numbers too. That's how these guys are developed. Want to make the team, kid? I know exactly what you got to do. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, that is the one thing. Like, there's lots of ways to get concussions. And, you know, we've talked about, you know, taking all head hits out of the game, et cetera, et cetera. But the simplest one is fighting, isn't it? Like, are you upset that there isn't a fight every Leafs game?
No.
Like, I'm kind of happy there's 6 goals every Leafs game for the guys wearing blue. Like, that's pretty cool. I've enjoyed that greatly. If we're talking about starting to solve an issue, that to me is a very quick and easy way of doing it.
And I think
it's time has passed, man. It's time has passed. It doesn't need to be there anymore.
I think when you acknowledge the fact that, you know, you're never going to undangerous hockey. It's going to be dangerous always.
You can't dangerous baseball. I'm always amazed when guys crash into each other on the baseball field.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or they get hit by a baseball.
That one I'm less amazed by. But like when they have all this field and they run into each other. But it happens, man.
The
golf. Guys wasn't there an NHL player? Didn't I just miss that there was an NHL player that got hurt golfing?
A ref that qualified.
Oh, it was
for a golf tournament. But he didn't run into anybody.
No, I thought I saw a story and Erik Johnson commented on it. A guy who missed a full year of hockey because he hurt himself in a golf cart.
I don't know about that, but
Garrett Rank, by the way, is the NHL ref.
Thank you.
I don't know. Maybe that's also true. I did not see that story.
I think Steve is losing the
I think golf was pushing it, man.
Listen, I had to break up the tension somehow. I had to break it up. If I break it up with my own stupidity, let it be so.
I think the point is, I mean, you if you're going to try to limit the instances where somebody could potentially get hurt, fighting's the easy one to take out. And I think, you know, I can understand our parents' generation and the generation before that being excited about fights. People go to UFC matches. You guys watch every UFC event.
I saw Lyoto Machida kick Randy Couture in the face live in person, and the whole stadium went bananas.
It's exciting. But hockey's not about a kick in the face, right? Hockey's about playing
scoring
the game.
Goals.
Organized fighting is a part of the game.
Hang on.
Is it?
No, guys, hang on.
Sorry.
Let me just make this fucking point. The point I'm trying to make here is that the NHL is not going to be able to pay the bill on this. You cannot, with the knowledge that we now have of what concussions do, there's no way that they can let this go on much longer. They can't. And they can't do it. The lawsuits are going to be huge.
To Jesse's point, because I think a lot of people are going to have a similar point of it's simply part of the game. No one's given, you know, Brock Lesnar a 5-minute penalty when he punches someone in the head. Like, it's fighting. Mm-hmm. Fighting is fighting. It's its own thing. In hockey, you're not allowed to do it.
No, but you're allowed to do it.
Are you playing devil's advocate?
No, I'm just asking a question. Like,
no, but how are you allowed to do it? They put you in the naughty boy box every time you do it.
But it's not. It's still a thing in the game that you can do and receive a 5. Like, the penalty for it, you're not allowed to do it, but the penalty for it is a 5-minute major.
Right, but you could just as easily make that a game misconduct, right?
Sure.
Or 3-game suspension, which I think they do in the O or something, don't they?
No, the O is different. And by the way, the O, and maybe I'm aging myself by saying this, when you're younger, OHL fights are sick. They're fun to watch. You're watching guys that are around your age, you know, with fire in their belly, and they're trying to make the NHL, and they're going at it, and, you know, it's out of anger, and they're sticking up for a teammate or whatever. Man, the older I get, when I watch junior hockey fights, I'm like, how is this allowed?
They're kids.
They're kids.
They're 15, 16 years old. Yeah, I know.
Kids. And you could theoretically have a 20-year-old fighting a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old.
I can see how Don Cherry's generation, I can see how my father's generation got behind fights. But we didn't know then what we know now. We didn't know.
It was friggin' Spartans.
We didn't know.
Everyone, you're raised by guys who went to war.
Yeah, exactly. You have a concussion? I got shot.
Culture has changed.
Yeah, and I just don't think we had the knowledge. So now that we do, are we going to continue just to go, well, this is the way it's always been?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, but if the guy wants to do it, then why are you telling him no? Because
Yeah.
a person who growing up now knows all of the repercussions of a concussion, yet they play football every day. They go out every day and they go to practice. They go to their high school football team and they play and they want to make it the NFL. So you're going to tell them no. Aren't you the one who's against telling people they can't do something?
I think that we're talking about playing a game versus fighting in a game. So the person that goes and plays football is playing a game.
Yeah.
The person that goes and plays hockey is playing a game. The person that fights in hockey is fighting in a game.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I think people made a lot of this is a culture of hockey thing. When ultimately all it was just very entertaining. And they didn't want to see it go because to them it was very entertaining. They liked watching two human beings throw knuckles at each other. That's what it is. So, yes, I agree, Jesse. As I said earlier, I don't think that football or hockey or sports that you could ever fully get concussions out of. They're going to happen.
And I'm guilty.
They're both dangerous sports. But if we're talking about bare-knuckle fighting in those sports, football doesn't allow that.
Well, neither does baseball, and it happens all the time.
And they get
suspended
out of the game and
Yeah,
suspended.
and then they have a penalty in hockey for it.
Yeah, but it's not.
But
It's
the
different.
penalty in hockey is not
It's 5
harsh
minutes.
enough.
Okay.
I think there's a reason. Dude, if it was a 5-minute penalty for fighting, Serge Ibaka would fight every single game. He would fight every single game, but because there's a suspension attached to it, he doesn't do it. The
So
penalty
you
is
want
stiffer.
people to be suspended for fighting in hockey.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Okay.
I think it's past time.
Well, and that brings me to this. So, Katie,
I like watching it, but dude, I'm willing to sacrifice it. I think the rest of us should be too.
Because of concussions.
Yeah, man. Like there's
limit your exposure to the fire. The fire's there. You're playing with it. Limit your exposure to the burns. Does that make sense?
And then some people will say, "Well, then take out hitting."
No,
Dude,
that's different.
this is direct punches to the face repeatedly, over and over again. How don't you see the difference? It's very obvious. Let's be adults about this.
The other thing is, I don't think you can trust NHL teams with themselves. And this comes from Katie Strang as well of The Athletic. Testimony from league officials and NHL team executives revealed that the New Jersey Devils, Calgary Flames, and Montreal Canadiens were all found to be non-compliant in following certain NHL-mandated rules. Although these depositions reference penalties to both the Flames and the Canadiens, testimony indicates the Devils were neither fined nor disciplined for their infractions. Basically, they failed to adhere and enforce certain protocols concerning head injuries. Former team president and general manager Lou Lamoriello admitted in his deposition that the team did not even perform baseline neuropsychological testing in 2007, even though it had been required by the league for a decade at that point. The testing was performed before the onset of every season to provide teams with a baseline where individual measures, thereby allowing them to compare a player's scores when concussed, suspected of being concussed, or suffering head trauma. Basically,
So it's like a physical for your brain.
yeah. And what's interesting about this, when the documents were reviewed, NHL head office made jokes about the fact that the Devils were non-compliant. They were like, "Oh well, it's the Devils."
Oh shit. Well, Lou will be Lou. Oh boy.
Now Lou said this.
How soon until the Leafs come out
In
with this?
Lou's fairness,
Oh boy.
he said, "I was never brought aware." I don't know if that's the right quote, but this is what it says. "I was never brought aware that we did not do it, other than the period of time that I did mention, and there was a reason, not an excuse, that it did not happen." So he says he wasn't aware.
What?
Yeah.
He's so good at non-answers.
When questioned about in the deposition about the team's failure to perform preseason baseline testing in training camp, he said the team did perform testing later that year. So just to be clear, the 1 year that the Devils did not perform baseline testing at the start of the season, when the Devils actually performed, when did the Devils actually perform those tests? And Lamoriello said postseason. So these are tests that are supposed to happen in the beginning of the season.
It happens after.
He says postseason. Does that mean during the playoffs, the end of the season, inclusive of the Stanley Cup? Lamoriello said it would be the end of the season.
I think you could, maybe if you were arguing against them doing that, or you were trying to catch them, you might say, well, After the season, you got your use out of them. Before the season, you might take them out. They might miss a month or two, or the whole season, or a week. You don't know.
And it goes back to that generational divide I was talking about with, Damien Cox and the bullying thing. I think there's an old school way and a new school way of looking at this, and I think we're seeing a chasm develop because obviously there's a new school way of looking at it. And these guys didn't take it as seriously because I don't think they knew. And then when they did know, I think that they thought, well, this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to process that. I don't know if I blame them for that or if I go, well, I blame them for some of it. You got to move with the times a little bit here. But at the same time, I'm not letting Lou off the hook on this one. I think it's bullshit. But you've got to... I think that there is a new way of looking at concussions, and we have to... we very clearly have to do something because this cannot continue.
Do fans give enough of a shit about this, you think?
Well, what was your reaction to the Nick Boyton thing?
Well, no, the reason I asked that is I was just thinking, like this show has been less fun than others. Certainly not not less prepped than others, Adam. Holy smokes. But I think, and it was sort of with the Capitals parade thing. Like one thing I said in my video after the Caps won the Cup that was sort of ambiguous is there's going to be lots of time to be angry about certain things. Can we just get through the parade? And then that stupid picture went up and I'm like, God. And I pushed it to the side because I was like, okay, in a few days, let's just enjoy it. Let's enjoy the thing. All right, they did the thing. Now we can talk about it. Do fans, I think a lot of fans are just into hockey and they're just into sports for the hockey and the sports. And they don't want to deal with this stuff. So I think, fans drive sports. To me, if fans themselves, I think, start, requesting or whatever, demanding that there's no more fighting in the NHL, I think they get rid of fighting pretty quick. I think the NHL is worried about losing its fan base if they do this.
Well, then the NHL has a problem with rate of gameplay. Because the majority of gameplay, whether you have fighting or not, let's say you have 3 fights during a game, which would be a lot in today's NHL.
Be a ton.
Be a lot. If you lose those fights completely from the broadcast, what are they, 2% of the total time that you've spent?
Yeah,
in
I
minutes
think the
total?
average NHL fight, but I think a long one is 20 seconds.
Yeah, so
Especially
what are you
these days.
losing? Does that mean the rest of the game's boring?
Fans standing up and going, whoa! And look, again, a good fight is a good fight. Maybe it does make it more entertaining. Just because something is more entertaining doesn't mean it should be in the game.
It absolutely makes it more entertaining. Absolutely.
Give them all Buzz Lightyear outfits.
That's entertaining.
Take cues from video games, NHL 18. Give them all mascots. Have all the mascots play. I want to see that. The second period is just mascots, and it counts.
And it's threes, NHL threes rules.
Yeah, you're up 3-2 after the first, down 7-4 after the second because the mascots just sucked. And then the third, you got a 3-goal hole to crawl back from.
Carlton the Bear and Spartacat let you down.
I want to see it. In overtime, you just put in one of the mascots because they take up a crazy amount of space. And he's like a beer league goalie, so he's okay and basically knows what he's doing and moves around. There's all kinds of things you could do that would make lots of different sports more entertaining, but they'd be preposterous things. I just feel like hockey doesn't need this, man. It doesn't need it. But to Jesse's point, do you assume some kind of risk?
Yes, you do, in the play.
What does that mean?
In terms of play. If you have a game with hitting in it, there's a risk. Like football, there's a risk.
Does the NHL want this? Is this fun? Everyone having fun? That everyone's reporting on this and talking about this? And you got former players crying and saying, scratch my name off the cup. Freaking, my life's miserable right now. Everyone having fun? Is this good? Da-da-da-da-da. Hey, everyone enjoying this? Crazy fight, rock and sock 'em? No, I think we're done here, guys. I think it's done. I think game misconduct or 1 game suspension. Take it up with Gretzky. Wasn't he a huge proponent of that for the longest time? He thought fighting should be a game misconduct? Mm-hmm. No, we're done here, man. It's 2018.
I think
I I don't know what the reaction would be if you took fighting out of the game. Like, I don't think they wouldn't like lose fans. I don't know.
They'd lose
Like,
a couple.
TV ratings, I don't think would take a major dip.
That's what I'm saying.
People would complain.
People
would complain. That's it.
And as a $1 billion industry, is that what you want everybody to focus on? Like, for how many years would it take for people to stop complaining about it? A decade?
You think so? I think they'd be
5
over
years?
pretty quick.
I think maybe what they're trying to do, and to their credit, I think they're doing it somewhat successfully, is they're just waiting for fighting to die out itself. And it is. Every year, the number goes down significantly. So maybe that's what they're waiting on. Maybe they're waiting on, and then maybe then you don't have to say anything.
I
It's like,
guess-
why make a rule about fighting? No one does it.
So then my question would be, is that good enough? Because you are still
Not
not
really.
taking action.
It's kind of a cheap way out, and it's the NHL letting Dave Branch do the dirty work for them again. Dave Branch, who's the head of the CHL. Because, I mean, a lot of this goes through him.
That's I think you're right, Jesse. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar thing. It's something that has been very much associated with the sale of hockey to new fans is, there's fighting. I get you. You get fired up. No, there's goals, there's hits, and there's fights. And there's definitely got to be a concern from those people. And by the way, anybody in any sort of high management position in hockey is going to be an old school guy. There's no. Is there anybody under the age of 40 in those positions?
Kyle Dubas and John Chayka, and both have been accepted without fuss.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Both are loved around the league. I think it's a legitimate concern for them, but I don't think ultimately, if you trust that your gameplay is entertaining, then it's a non-issue.
And all I've ever seen for the past few years with like Stanley Cup final ratings and the success of Vegas, like the NHL's kind of killing it, like by their standards.
they're doing
Ratings are up, to my knowledge. And
They just hadn't just like that Vegas whole
was a
thing. They
huge
rolled that
success.
out perfectly. They did a great job there.
look at Nashville. From the start, people are going, you're silly. Why are you putting a hockey team in Nashville?
Tampa.
Why are you putting a team in Tampa? Why are you putting a team in Vegas? Bang, bang, bang. Like 3 big successes.
Anaheim.
I mean, they won a cup. I still think they're struggling a little bit, but
when they started, people were like, okay, it's the Mickey
what
Mouse
is
team.
this?
They had the movie, and then now they've made an NHL team out of it.
like I don't know if hockey interest is going down, but fighting is. So if interest is going up and fighting is going down, how important is it?
I just don't know what happens when you take it out.
Would you stop? Would you know? Do you
There
know
would
anybody
still
who
be
would?
fights,
Yeah,
but
there-
you'd have to go. Boy, I hate this guy enough that I'm gonna get kicked out of this game.
Yeah, but it's not, I don't.
Or I'm gonna get
I don't
suspended.
mean what happens in terms of the fighting. I mean what happens in terms of the fans. Like, is that your distraction for 2 years off the ice?
I mean, if that's the straw that, if that does it for you, I don't know where you've been the last 5 years. Like what Leaf fan is being kept watching their games? Like the only reason he's watching is because fighting's still in the game. How many fights the Leafs have this year? Like 8?
I don't know.
You
would be the one who would know that. I don't think anybody on the show.
I can't even think.
I don't know.
I don't think it's a matter of, hey, I'm going to stop watching hockey because there's no fights. I think it's a matter of it becomes a distraction because everyone starts talking about how you took fighting and you changed the game.
They make it a
snowball?
thing.
Yeah, and they just
Okay.
talk about that, and that's a storyline for however long. And I don't know. If it was an easy decision, it'd be gone.
Right.
Or it'd be a higher penalty.
If I'm them, the time to roll that out is at the beginning of the season. Because if you do that in the summer, that's all anyone's got to talk about, right?
And you
But
can't do that.
If you do that before the first game and you say this is the rule change, then all of a sudden you got all these other storylines that are, we're going.
And
that's
and
a
it
Monday
buries
morning
it.
I
story.
also don't think you can do that.
You don't think you can bury it?
I think it's a CBA negotiation, is it not? If you change fighting.
I don't know. I don't know that.
Wow.
When's the next
2020.
lockout? 2020.
Very interesting, Jesse. And that
Is it a
timing
CBA?
does kind of work.
Yeah,
Because it wouldn't it be a safety, because they changed the rules for goalies, right? And they changed the face-offs. How would fighting be any different?
I don't know.
You can change things at like GM meetings.
Yeah, if you make
So that's
something.
what I mean. So they could do it.
If you make something a suspension, I don't know.
That's a good. Yeah, I'm not sure it's really a CBA thing, but that might be good timing. Because whenever you have a lockout or a new CBA, even if there isn't a lockout, I think you expect some level of change. Mm-hmm. That's the perfect time.
Yeah, maybe, when did you say 2022?
2020.
2020, yeah, maybe 2020, that conversation starts happening.
That's a
Maybe
very good
move away
point.
from hockey.
Very
from
good
fighting.
point.
So, questions?
That's a really good question. Now,
Do we want a fun thing?
I got several fun things. Do you want to talk about some hockey?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about John Tavares and the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Oh, yes.
Arthur Staple, now of The Athletic, formerly of Newsday. Somehow I missed that he's at The Athletic too.
Everyone works
Everybody
for the
works for the bloody Athletic.
You see that tweet? Does Sean Paul work for the Athletic? Love that.
Who will be calling John Tavares June 25th? Expect the teams that have been dropping not so subtle hints about their interest. The Canadians, the Sharks, the Blues had that list. The Sabres will surely make a pitch. Elliot Friedman has mused on his podcast about whether the Penguins would take a swing, which you have to expect. Rutherford, of course they will.
Hilarious.
The Golden Knights will make a lot of sense too, especially if they can swing an Erik Karlsson deal at the draft. Although I don't think the Golden Knights need an Erik Karlsson deal to convince John Tavares that maybe there's something going on in Vegas. They made it to the finals. They made it further than the Islanders have made it since 1983.
I wonder if there's still players going, what if it's a flash in the pan?
Yeah, sure.
There's fans, so the players are thinking it.
So that's who's going to call Tavares. Arthur Staple goes on to say, but who does Tavares want to call?
Tell me, Arthur.
It's long believed the Kings and the Leafs would be his preferred destinations if he could choose. Los Angeles has to try and sign Drew Doughty after next season, and it has the least cap space. I didn't know this.
Oh, yeah.
Going into 2018-19, so that seems kind of like a stretch. Really? Are they that toast cap-wise? How did they get Peter Budaj today?
They got a lot of... Well, Budaj's not making a whole lot. That's how. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think the salary was roughly the same with Budaj and Andreev. I'm not actually sure. But, no, yeah, they got a lot of expensive deals for guys who are not getting younger. Like Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter's great. Jeff Carter's getting kind of older.
Dion Phaneuf.
/
Marian Gaborik before he was Dion Phaneuf.
The resurging Dustin Brown. Just to name a few. Kopitar got that huge new deal, which was deserved, but holy smokes. Jonathan Quick is making a bunch of money.
You know, it'd be great. Freeing up $7 million when Drew Doughty comes to the Leafs.
I agree.
You think? $7 million?
Well, that's what he makes now.
Oh, right, because math.
So
I'm an idiot.
free up $7
I
million.
am an idiot. Yes.
So Los Angeles has to try to sign Drew Doughty. They can't do it. Or they can't really fit Tavares unless they make some major moves, and it'd be pretty hard to do. The Leafs may be the wild card. They could afford Tavares at $11 million per season, but Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner need new deals after this coming season, and Toronto only has 15 players signed for next year with roughly $25 million in cap space on a presumed $78 million salary cap. I don't know where he got presumed 78. They said between 78 and 82. I'm going somewhere in the middle there.
Maybe he's just going minimum.
If they can make a pitch, the thinking is Tavares will listen to his hometown team. The Islanders remain the front runner, and there are moves coming that are sure to impress Tavares and his desire to win on the island, but the days are getting short towards the great unknown. Now, interestingly, two guys helped to author the CBA for the NHL. Can you name those guys?
I believe they were Brandon Brittam. Mm-hmm. And wasn't it Lawrence Gilman? Or no, it was Steve Pellegrini.
Now, what happened with Steve Pellegrini?
He just got hired by the New York Islanders.
From the New Jersey Devils. So Lou's not messing around.
Nor should he be. He's just doing his job.
And apparently he's willing to move serious pieces now to get better now. Like they've got the 11th and 12th. They have apparently they're open to any suggestions of trades.
I think they should trade one of them.
Why not?
They got a few young guys. They've done
even if you're trading down. But if you can flip that for a legitimate player, like Calgary doesn't have a first round pick. They have a pile. But they have a pile of young defensemen that not all of them can make it.
Travis Hamonic.
What if you get a TJ Brody?
It's an interesting thought, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hilarious thought, but
especially with Calvin DeHaan on. And no one's talking about Calvin DeHaan. He's an unrestricted free agent. No one's talking about this guy.
Yes, there is someone talking about Calvin DeHaan.
It's just freaking me.
Just you.
Unbelievable.
Also, does Pierre Engvall hold on to the puck too much, Adam?
He does. Pierre Engvall, I think he's got great puck skills, but Pierre Engvall holds on to the puck every time a half stride too long.
He said it like 20 times yesterday. It's
enough.
This is the implication.
Pass the
I
puck.
made fun of you in the video today. I don't know if you saw it.
Did you? No, I haven't seen it yet.
I did.
Oh.
I did. I was like, Pierre, stop doing it so Adam's not saying it. Stop it.
It's like I said with the Capitals. Watch out for the Capitals. No pressure on them going in the playoffs.
What is it? What is it like having the burden of being right all the time?
It's hard. Let me tell you. It's hard to be right and have no one listen to you.
What?
I'm so righteous. They call me Righteous Adam.
I don't think they do.
They do. They are a group of people that exist.
I'd buy that shirt.
They are they. I'm going to piss off some Coyotes fans saying this, but I got to tell you, I don't understand the Oliver Ekman-Larsson staying for $8.25 million for 8 years in Arizona.
Supposedly, yes.
If that's true,
I get it. Maybe
Do you get it?
They convinced. I mean, they're still a young team. It's his team. He's in charge. We've talked about NHL players' fetish for sticking around with things that they help build, which Oliver Ekman-Larsson certainly has. They had a really good back half. I'm sure they've convinced him that they're going to be trying a few other things, and he is getting a ton of money.
now they did have a good back half, you're right. And we all thought they'd be better than they were.
I'm not convinced he would get a ton more than that either. A lot of people seem to think that's a huge discount. I think it's a bit of a discount.
That's interesting. Why do you think that?
I mean, dude, look at his season last year. It was terrible.
But their entire staff had a bad season. Like Max Domi had a bad season. Now they're trying to wheel him out, selling low.
I don't know. I think maybe 9. But like everyone just arbitrarily throws out 10.
I would have thought 10 and a half.
Not everyone's 10. No. Not
Really?
10 and a half. I don't think he's 10 and a half.
in a
That's
league
bold.
starving for good defensemen. You're free. It's free agency. You're going to overpay.
I think he's a great player. Yeah, no, that's true. But you sign this now. You get to stay where you are. There's no interruption to your life. You're well paid. You're rich beyond measure. Yeah. I think we're looking at it as peasants. I think we're looking at it as mere peasants. Look, you're leaving X amount of dollars on the table. Dude,
I'm not
he's
leaving.
Rich. He's rich now. Before he signs that deal, that'll pay him what, $65 million, something like that, 67, whatever. Why did I have to say 67? Perhaps 69. Nice. He's rich. He's set for the rest of his life, and his kids are set, and their grandkids are set.
Next question. And this is a question I've asked before. What are the Detroit Red Wings even?
Funny.
One of the teams interested in Ilya Kovalchuk.
Oh, you bet.
The Detroit Red Wings.
Hit me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They could use another. Please take Mike Green's shot as the big right-handed shot
Where's
on the
this
power
from?
play.
This is from The Athletic.
Who's reporting this?
Craig Custance.
The Athletic,
He
Jesse.
said that there is a...
It's all The Athletic. You all work for The Athletic now. All reports come from The Athletic. All players speak to The Athletic.
I
The
had
Athletic,
it ready to go, and it's not loading because the internet's not loading. But essentially, one of the teams said to be interested in Ilya Kovalchuk is the Detroit Red Wings.
Well,
and we said this about Mike Green, but Ilya Kovalchuk,
I can explain
really?
it.
Because I can't be reached.
I
guess the
can
internet's
explain
out.
it, Adam. It's because the Red Wings are bad, and also Kovalchuk is bad. So it makes sense that the Red Wings would want a bad player. Did you know that he's bad? He's bad now.
He's not bad.
He's bad. Can I transition to a story that talks about how bad he is?
Let's hear it.
He's bad. Igor Iranko tweeted, I want to say it was sportsexpress.ru. I got to look it up. A list of the top 50 Russian hockey players. Makes sense. Igor Iranko works for a Russian sport publication. Does anyone want to take a guess at who number 1 is? The best Russian hockey player in the world?
Ovechkin.
No. Go ahead.
Kovalchuk?
No. Evgeny Kuznetsov, reigning Conn Smythe Trophy winner, is number 1. Alex Ovechkin, his teammate, is number 2.
Conn Smythe went to Ovi.
Yeah.
Oh, what did I say?
You said Kuz.
Kuznetsov, my bad. No, sorry. Conn Smythe winner Ovechkin is number 2. Number 3,
Nice catch.
Nikita Kucherov. Number 4, Evgeny Malkin.
What is this list of?
The top 50 Russian hockey players.
Based
According to a guy.
From, here, look up Igor Iranko's Twitter.
No, we know who Igor Iranko is.
You're just listing guys, and these are my favorite Russian players.
Yeah, like according to what is this based on? Yeah, thank you.
The best. The metric is
based
best.
on what?
It's based on some guy.
Best. So
Based on what?
based on best. Jesse, are you not listening?
The best at
I don't know
what?
how to say it in Russian.
The best at what?
Best.
Best.
The best at
Hockey.
the best at hockey.
Hockey.
I swear to God.
I swear to God.
Okay. These are the guys that are the best at hockey.
Now, I know what you're thinking, Jesse.
We're a bunch of 8-year-olds.
This is
Sidney Crosby.
We're gonna get upset about this list for a minute. This list that this guy made.
This broke just before we started the podcast. This broke.
This news.
The internet.
Broke.
Kardashian, champagne, on her butt. It broke the internet, Jesse. This happened right before the podcast, so you have no idea
No.
of the internet ramifications.
I just want to know why
For Jesse.
you're reading the list.
Well, because
Anyway, continue. Malkin at 5.
because Jesse, it's okay. Let me answer the question before you ask it. How does this affect the Leafs? Number 14 on this list, Nikita Zaitsev. He's the 14th best Russian hockey player. And I know I would certainly rather have him than number 17, Ilya Kovalchuk.
Wow.
Wow, Adam, did you just have a positive reaction to the thing that I brought to the show that you've been dumping out for the past 2 minutes? Yeah, you did.
Some guy made a list that is controversial.
Ronco is not some guy.
So
No,
that
but it
people will
doesn't-
talk about it.
It doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
Igor
knows that doesn't make
best
sense.
hockey, and you're totally dumping on that metric.
Even if Chris Johnston made an article that said, here are the best hockey players now.
metric,
He didn't.
imperial, best. These are the things that we measure greatness with.
Jesse.
Did you actually bring that?
Centimeters.
To be like, these are the best hockey players?
No, I wanted to know what you thought of
Jesse,
the list.
as a producer-
And I thought you were going to debate the placement on the list.
Why would-
You're debating why bring it up at all. I should have known better.
Hey,
No,
Jesse.
but I can't debate something when they're arbitrarily placed on one guy's opinion of the best.
No,
That
first of
doesn't
all,
make sense.
best.
Jesse, question for you as a producer. When you're putting together a piece of content,
Question for you as a producer: how's Steve wrong?
do you want to sometimes intentionally put in something that will get people's attention and get them talking about your piece?
No, that's ridiculous. I
that-
like relevant information.
Right.
That is also substantial and get people talking.
But is it common in media circles to do something like that to
Stephen
get
A. Smith
attention
never
for a
does
list that
ridiculous
really
things.
doesn't matter?
Yeah, sports in the States never just goes here and they just shovel crap in at people's mouths.
You know what happens with that stuff?
What happens?
You don't bring it to another show and then start debating.
No, never.
Hey,
Never.
here's this clickbait nonsense. Let's talk about it. Because
never.
there's substance there to talk about.
You would never do that. Hey, Adam, when are we getting to Mike Francesa? We would never do that. We would never do that.
we will.
There's not even humor in the list.
Wait.
It's just a list.
Jesse, I'm only at 17. Wait till I get through the whole list.
By the way, Devontae Smith-Pelly stands by his statement. This is new. He's not going to the White House.
Good.
My question remains, though, is it just a list that he tweeted out that's his personal opinion? Is it voted on by
what
people?
was our original
Let me
conversation?
look it up. Sorry, I didn't screen cap that much because I didn't think you would give me this much shit. I thought you would be like, thanks for trying to have fun.
Steve,
Thanks for bringing this to the show. How stupid of me.
When you looked at that, did you say, oh, yeah, Kuzi's better than Ovi?
No, I didn't. That's why I brought it to the show.
No.
It's interesting.
Did you say, oh, Ovi's better than him?
I said, what a peculiar pick.
Or that Zaitsev is better than Kovalchuk?
At 14 or 17, you looked at it and you said, this one's better than that one. Like, we're rating NHL players in EA Sports.
When I said they had
this guy
Kovalchuk
deserves
below
an 87.
Zaitsev, Adam said, wow. Just
Yeah,
because
but-
Adam has the capacity to enjoy things,
They don't
and you
even
do not.
They don't even
doesn't
play the
mean
same.
It's a bad bit.
They don't even play the same position.
But he's best. Okay. Okay. Yes, Adam.
Question.
Yes.
Is it possible that this list was put together with Kovalchuk at 17 because Kovalchuk is top of mind because he's touring NHL cities right now, and this list at having him at 17 behind notably Nikita Zaitsev might garner some attention in the Twitter sphere because we like to argue back and forth about stupid stuff all the time, and this is a really perfect fire starter.
They don't even play this. What are you arguing?
They don't play the same position.
No, but what does somebody looks at this? What do you argue? Oh no, he's better. Like give
Backgammon?
This is something no one has ever done.
Zaitsev and
You're right.
Kovalchuk. What are you arguing?
I brought a new and bold thing to the table.
Hold on, but does he say where it's from?
Scored? That's an argument.
I even said it at the beginning.
Does it? No.
Sportexpress.ru.
What do they base it on?
I don't speak friggin' Russian, man. I just took the tweet from Igor where he put the list. I know swear words. That's it.
What?
I hear a hum. What
I
do you
heard a hum
think?
too.
You hit something bad.
Oh, you hit something.
Ringing. I think
Oh,
it's the
good.
chair.
Okay.
Oh, my bad.
Well, I mean, it's a cool list, man. Who came 50th?
Oh, man. Sergei Shirokov.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he
that
plays
guy.
in the KHL. Yeah. Not like St. Louis, though, no. I mean, Kovalchuk used to wear 17, so maybe that's why he's at 17. Because I also found it peculiar that Valery Nichushkin was number 43.
Are there goalies on the list too?
Well, you interrupted me before I got to number 5, which is Andreea Vasilevsky.
He's better than a guy who doesn't play the same position as him.
According to this list, he's 1 spot better than Artemi Panarin. And 2 spots better than... Hockey! How many times do I have to phlegm?
Fortnite.
So
Hockey!
dumb.
This is hockey!
This is so stupid.
It's
We should
nuts.
move on. This is a bad conversation.
Hey, listen. If
I know lots of Russian swear words, Jesse.
wasting our time.
Wow! Wow!
I have a headache now.
If you got through all the
most
beginning of the
enjoyable
show,
part of the show for half the audience.
I'm blown away. You've made it this far. I want
Matt,
to.
you're telling me you're not blown away that Bogdan Kiselevich is only 27th?
Only
Have you no soul?
Bogdan Kiselevich is only 10 spots behind Kovalchuk.
Right?
He's
At
only
what?
And he was just signed by the Panthers, I'm pretty sure.
That makes sense.
nevertheless.
I get it now. He's better.
Just because you don't,
I
just
get
because
it.
you like to cheer against former Severstall Cheryl players
I don't know.
doesn't mean.
that.
Oh yeah, you do.
Bless you.
Yeah, you do. You must be an Akbar's Kazan fan. Not a fan of other Eastern Conference teams, are you, Jesse? Didn't think so. Don't let your Akbar's Kazan bias get in the way. By the way, did any of their players make the list? Let me look. Denis Zaripov at number 38.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, you have. Because he's one of the top 50 best hockey in all of Russia.
All right, now I often get made fun of. I'm switching.
Oh, this topic's stupid.
Switching topics here.
Sorry.
Not because it's stupid. I think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I often,
do you? Jesse, you
Johnny.
got that one? You got your headphones on or what?
I often get made fun of for being a Habs fan, but I don't think it's totally inaccurate. I am the biggest Habs fan from June 15th to July 15th every single year. I hope they continue down this path. And one of my favorite things to come up in the last few days is Bob McKenzie speculating on Montreal's TSN 690 with our friend Connor McKenna in the morning. He says he expects Jack Johnson to get in the neighborhood of $6 million a year, give or take $1 million, and he expects the Canadians to be interested.
Now, I do got to jump in and say something. Who is this tweet from? It's certainly not someone with the reputation of Igor Aranko.
Well, it's from Prospects Watch.
Who the hell is that?
He's got
with all
5,000
due respect
followers,
to them.
Prospects_Watch. He's a Prospects guy. And this is something that, by the way, this was on the station. Like it for sure was. It's not. He's not treating.
So there's something to it.
100%.
Because I heard McKenzie was misquoted. But that gets thrown around a lot these days. All you got to do is say misquote.
I'm gonna go
Yes,
with.
Adam?
I'm gonna go with the Habs are interested in Jack Johnson.
Awesome.
other-
believe me, I want it to be
The
true.
other concerning thing is there are NHL teams interested in Slava Voinov, and I just hope to heck that their names are not Ottawa and Montreal.
Why?
Because I don't think.
I hope it's nobody.
I hope it's
Let's
no.
start with
well,
that.
I mean, I think that's obvious. If
Yeah.
that wasn't already obvious, I'm sorry. Let me make it obvious. I hope Slava Voinov's not playing in the NHL next year.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
But if there are teams that are interested and they want to walk that path, Montreal and Ottawa
Strike you as candidates?
Strike me as candidates. Not necessarily. You know what? I have nothing to base it on. They strike me as candidates to not do that. Like if there's two teams that do not need that sort of thing hanging over the clubhouse, it's those two teams.
So I was talking about quality of player. My bad. So
no, I'm talking about the baggage that comes with it. Those two teams do not need that. I don't think any team needs it. But of the teams that are a little bit unstable, I would include Montreal and Ottawa.
Yeah, and potentially whatever team he goes to might make him unstable. Dude, it's not a cloud you want hanging over your organization. And I think it was.
Do you want to be the general manager that signs that deal?
Yeah, I think it was Mark Lazarus who said 31 teams have the chance to do the right thing here, or the NHL just suspends them indefinitely. And I think that was Kemi I saw say that,
which they haven't done.
Yeah, if you suspend them forever, basically, there you go. Done. Problem solved. Done of it.
But they're not doing that.
What do they do? What do they do? It's up to the Sens. It's up to the other teams.
God forbid they take a stance on anything. So NHL. Lastly, we're not going to do a press conference today. We're going to end with Mike Francesa.
Oh.
I know we did. We just don't have time. There's just a lot of stuff going on. Mike Francesa.
I saw that Steve asked for press conference questions, so I think you hurt his feelings.
Do you want to do press conference questions?
No, I just feel silly.
Well, I mean, we can still do it.
Don't worry, it's not the worst thing I've done this show.
Do you want to?
No.
Do you want to? I just figured we'd end on Mike Francesa and end on a high note.
No, let's do that. Because then I asked for the questions and then I didn't send it to Jesse. So I have no idea what the questions were.
Well, we can save them for the next episode.
I just brought it up because I saw you tweeted it.
Oh. Well, we can save the questions. They could still be asked on the next episode.
No, they can't. There's going to
be
forbidden.
What do you mean?
We can't.
Today is Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the next one will be next week
for today.
Wednesday. All right, fine. We'll get to a few of them then.
Come up.
No, I don't want to do the press conference.
Come up with a list of the top 50 questions, and I'll tell you how it's stupid.
I want to end it on Mike Francesa.
That's just because it's been a tough episode, and I just think this will end it on a high note. Now, Mike, I just want to say that this Twitter video has 299,000 views.
Is this where he invents something that's already been invented?
Yes. Mike Francesa is talking about legalized sports betting, and he comes up with this crazy idea called daily fantasy sports.
No, I don't think that's how he said it.
Well, here we go.
And this is where, if the states are smart, they will take people who really understand this, okay, and let them create games that would attract people. And there are games. If I created a game for you that plays into your football or basketball or baseball expertise, and you could, for a $20 or $50 in total, have a chance to win big money based on how you play it, that will be an exciting play for you, okay? That will be a very exciting play for the average guy. And I think you can create something where the payoffs are not $1 in a dream like the lottery, where the odds are you got a better chance of getting hit by lightning, but that if you have a skill, there will be a game. I could create 10 games in 15 minutes if they gave me 15 minutes to do it. And those games, if created properly, will be very enticing to the public. And what's good about them is the bookmakers don't have the same games. They don't have the mechanism. They don't like coupled bets. They don't like the chance of you winning a lot with a little. They frown on that. They don't want that. They want you to bet dollar for dollar. They really want you to pay 11 for 10 is what they want you to do. So they want that bet. They don't want this other bet. And this other bet is where the states, if they're imaginative, will make their money. I can create a game in 15 minutes for you. Like, let's say I create a game where you get to pick 5 players tonight in the major leagues. All right? And if your 5 players, based on numeric totals, have better offensive numbers for the night than any other 5 players, you win $50,000.
No!
And the fee is $10 to get in. People will buy that. They'll play it like crazy. They will play it all night. And you can create different ones. You can create ones that pay $10,000, that pay $5,000. But if you give the average guy a chance to win $5,000 for his $10, he's going to do it.
If you say you're living on
under
Mars.
your console at a radio station, and haven't been outside for 25 years.
Okay. Let's say you're living on Mars, Steve.
Yes.
And then you've been there since 2001.
Yeah, and I'm reading the list of the top 50 Russian players in peace.
And you come back to Earth.
Yes.
And you have a conversation with someone you don't know what cell phones are. And you invent the iPhone. Are you not a genius? Because you came up with an idea that'd be so ingenious. And then if it came into practice, if you were here back in 2001 and you had thought of it, which your mindset is, you're in 2001 mode, and you invent the iPhone, you're a billionaire. So
basically,
Mike Francesa hasn't looked at anything outside of the back of his eyelids or his microphone.
Or his Diet Coke.
He's anything outside of his WFAN studio in 4 decades, apparently.
New York.
So now he's just like spitballing stuff, and he comes up with this $1 billion industry.
In 2 minutes and 11 seconds.
In 2 minutes, and he doesn't know it
15
exists.
minutes. Give me 15 minutes. Imagine how much better the idea will be in 13 minutes from now. Give me another 13 minutes.
So is he not a genius? He invented something, and he didn't know it was invented. And if it wasn't invented, and he said this, and then someone did it, he'd be a billionaire.
So, for example, you know how Captain America...
No, I don't.
Got frozen.
I don't know Captain America.
He got frozen. Okay. So, and then he gets unfrozen, and then was like, I have a great idea for...
Stone Cold Steve Roberts. No, they didn't, but he was still, because he got frozen. Anyway, sorry.
I have an idea for a superhero, and he, like, flies around in a metal suit, perhaps even iron, and he goes around defeating bad guys in his iron suit, and it's a man in the suit. You could call him Man of Iron or something like that. So basically... I don't know where I was going with that.
You were just making another example of the same iPhone example that I just made.
And I just lost my privilege to make fun of Mike Francesa because I suck.
I don't know where you were going with your Iron Man and Captain America inventing Iron Man for some reason. Why would Captain America invent Iron Man?
I'm tempted to just walk out of the studio.
No.
Man of Iron. Man of Iron.
Okay, why would Captain America invent Man of Iron?
The joke is Iron Man already exists.
No, but it's a simple question.
What is the question?
Why would Captain America invent Man of Iron?
Because he just had this great idea one day.
But he's already Captain America.
But he had an idea for another superhero.
He was going to change himself into a different...
He felt a need for a rebrand.
He felt like he wanted to write a book.
Okay. He's been frozen for like 60 years.
And okay, so we've established what you were trying to say, apparently.
Yes.
What did that have to do with me saying that Mike Francesa is a genius for inventing something that's $1 billion and he didn't know it existed? Why is
Captain America a genius for accidentally inventing Iron Man who already exists?
Follow up. Why did you need to make another example when I just made an example to illustrate my point?
Because I talk a lot and I can't help myself. I talk and sometimes it's good, but a lot of times it freaking sucks. And this is one of those times, Jesse.
I described my position, and then I gave you an example from the real world to illustrate my position.
Yes.
And then you decided to give an example that wasn't...
What was your alternate point, though? Did
Adam, you have to understand, Jesse, you said it. I did not. You said it, I did not, but then I had to say something.
What was the follow-up point to the Captain America Iron Man?
I didn't bother to think of any of that. All I know is I was like, I haven't spoken in about 20 seconds. I need to get this out.
So you decided to start talking about Captain America.
Let's talk about Captain America. Because you're like, what if you were on Mars? And I'm like, what about a more realistic scenario where you were frozen in a comic book movie?
So you stepped into the ring with Jesse Blake without knowing where you were going?
Yeah.
No, but he was
the king of argument.
You walked in
with the king of argument.
I stepped into a boxing ring with Manny Pacquiao because I was looking for the bathroom. That's what I just did. and I just got knocked out.
No, but it wasn't even like we were having an argument. You just said something.
No,
you started playing bocce ball.
I agree. I just wanted to add.
I don't know why we're playing
bocce ball.
Because it's a single player sport, basically.
I think it has Italian implications.
No, I don't think so.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Racist.
No, I know where he was going with it.
You got it.
You didn't have to say it. I knew.
I knew.
All of a sudden, Steve started making a pizza. I was like, wow, look at this spicy meatball
Now
pizza.
imagine if I had been frozen for 60 years. And after waking up, I was really hungry, and I was like, man, I could go for some kind of treat that has like dough and sauce and cheese, and we could call it the sauce pie. And then my friend Jesse Blake slaps me and calls me an idiot and says that already exists. And we call it a pizza. It sponsors our show, as a matter of fact.
So my point would be that you'd be a damn genius if you invented the pizza without knowing a pizza existed, because if you had done that pre-pizza, you'd clearly, pizzas would be named Steve's because it would be that famous.
Now what if...
So is Mike Francesa not a genius?
Mike Francesa is smarter than me, I'll tell you that.
I think that's the end
You
of
just
that.
Mike Francesa that, by the way.
It's closed.
This whole show sucks.
I think that's the end of that chapter.
I hate myself.
Mike Francesa, genius. We are the Steve Dangle podcast. The opposite.
Oof.
We love you guys. Thanks for getting through this one. It was a long one. It was an arduous one, but we got through it together, and we love you.
All terrible.
And we will see you next week.
Very, very no good show.
Come on. When Scott Wheeler will be joining us. Talk about the draft.
Is that booked?
Yeah, it's booked.
There's people we've talked about being on the show in the near future who we haven't even reached out to
I actually
yet.
have Scott Wheeler's phone number in my phone, and I called him today.
Whoa. Did he answer?
He did. But he said, this was interesting. He went to voicemail first, and he's like, I'm sorry, I was just in a presser. I was like, oh, yeah? With who? And he's like, Sheldon Keefe. I was like, oh, you were doing your job. Interesting. So he called me back right after that, which I was like, that's very kind of you. I would have thought that, I would have given myself an hour just to, write your quotes out and that sort of thing. But
we should really punch out.
Yeah, we should. Hey, see you next week with Scott Wheeler. Love you guys. Take care.
I'm not coming back.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.